As I was saying, the Port of Barcelona is fully committed to minimize the impact on its surroundings, which is why they're promoting these actions to reduce the emissions from their activity. With us today, we have Carles Mayol, who's the sales manager of the Port of Barcelona. Thank you.
Very well. Gracias.
Just before you start.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Some familiar faces in the bench. Thank you for coming in any case. As a board, we are quite honored to hosting all of you. This is Carles Mayol, and on behalf of the Port of Barcelona, we will try to explain you one of the most relevant initiatives that the port is involved with, power to ship. And what is it? It's something, roughly speaking, related in how the port is working in electrifying the piers to provide renewable and clean resources to the ships via the onshore providers. Let's see that. In any case, we thought that we have to improve the quality air. This is our aim. Keep in mind that we are a public body, and we have to focus on how to improve in such a way. It's fully aligned with the most relevant challenges that as the port we are facing on. It's the sustainability, the growth, and the competitiveness. So if you don't mind, here we go. So the presentation is focusing on how, as a port, we can improve the air quality for sure. And how can we do it? For sure, reducing the quality in terms of emissions, in terms of greenhouse emissions, in terms of emitting and polluting emissions to the area, to the surrounding area. We are not just taking care of the port, for sure. We are quite close to the city. We have to take it into account. And for sure, these kind of activities, these kinds of initiatives will provide some decarbonization activities in the port system, in the port area, and on top of that, to the maritime business as a trendsetters. I will explain to you later on. And for sure, this energy transition that we explain you some specific initiatives that we are involved with other private sectors and companies and so on, will provide you in a better position in order to provide competitiveness to our industrial hinterland and to put some better emissions and solutions to the surrounding area for sure. And cost is quite important as well. We will try to reduce the cost for our stakeholders. This is, at the end of the day, logistics is money talks, quite important. So what's the impact in terms of the emissions in the Port of Barcelona? Coming backwards. Okay. Well, roughly speaking, so the Port of Barcelona is, roughly speaking, emitting 5,000 tons per year in terms of the nitrogen oxides, that it represents a huge amount of emissions. And the majority, most of them are coming from the vessels. It means from the engine, from the auxiliary engines when are alongside the berth, burning some fuels and so on. It represents, I repeat, 95%, a lot. The rest are coming from the inland transportation. It means the trucks moving the cargo all around, the vehicles for the passengers or the people for some natural purposes and so on, and terminal equipment. Imagine the cranes, the straddle carriers moving around. This part, it represents, roughly speaking, 5%. We don't have we don't have reliable data in terms of the solid bulk and civil works. It's quite variable within the day. So this is what we are measuring with the different KPIs. This is a study that we get it from the municipality, some public agency, and we grant this information in a study in 2015. So, and what's the impact to the city in terms of the port? Roughly speaking, oxides, nitrogens, it represents around 8% of the whole contribution to the city. And in terms of PM10, the particulate matters, it represents not more than 2%. This is a huge, for sure. But imagine for a while the port is not close by the city. So the challenge for sure is in the city, because it represents a huge, keep in mind how is the impact, for instance, for the cars or the regional contribution. But we are a public body. It's in our duty, it's in our DNA how to reduce this 8% and these 2% of the polluting emissions and oxides, nitrogen oxides to the atmosphere. So when we start to thinking how we can reduce this impact, how we can put the focus on improve the air quality in our organization, we thought, well, maybe we have to start to identify where are the most relevant bottlenecks. And we start to thinking that maybe one of the main relevant issues it could be taking into account or taking advantage that we have LNG facilities in the port, promote the LNG fuels in the Port of Barcelona. Secondly, we thought, why not to construct from the scratch, why not to build up a grid in order to take advantage of the different current, let's say, high voltage pipelines, and after that to incorporate renewable resources and so on. We are on the way. The third point is new criteria to attract the cleanest vessels, the cleanest shipping lines, which is one of the ways, granting some discounts, rebates in the taxes. And more recently, to encourage the maritime business to be a clean parties in this port business. As a trendsetters, to invite other companies, private and public companies to achieve it. So let's go down to the nitty-gritty for some specific measures. The first one is, I commented before, supply infrastructure. So what we did as a Port of Barcelona, thanks to LNG and a gas regasification plan, we have the proper infrastructure. So we did it. We are taking advantage. We are importing a huge amount of LNG volumes products, and we redefine the pipe in order to provide this LNG to the vessels and as well to the barge that after that is providing LNG bunkering to some specific examples that I can explain you or can show you. It's some cruise lines that are in weekly basis calling Barcelona Port, and where are some different barges providing one specific barge providing LNG to the vessels. Environmental initiatives for vessels, as commented before, granting the maximum discounts as we can as a port authority. Keep in mind the Spanish law is granting nowadays 50% of discount in the berthing dues. It means that the taxes that are paid in the vessel using the port area. But on top of that, Port of Barcelona is granting an additional 30%. It means 80%. Imagine 80% discount in terms to attract the cleanest vessels. It's a huge amount of money, for sure. Regulating LNG bunkering operations. Keep in mind that we are constructing, as commented before, we build up from the scratch this specific infrastructure. We know we have the funnel learning with private companies and so on, and we establish some framework altogether knows the rules of play. And this is the reason why we are nowadays, for instance, elaborating some truck-to-ship or ship-to-ship bunkering in order to achieve it. Some specific pilot projects that we are leading with private companies in the Port of Barcelona, mainly focusing in how we are reshaping the mobility from the land side and the sea side. Some examples just to be quite shortly. So some examples, for example, how we are reshaping the towage services, the straddle carriers. We are reshaping the engine, the traditional fuels with a new one, in such a way with LNG. Some trucks, for sure, if we have trucks that are running with LNG, we have to provide, LNG regasification plants. And this is something quite important, not just to be in the pictures, not just to be in the media, it's just to breaking down barriers with our stakeholders in order to provide next steps and create a micro scenario in order to go a step forward. So this is from LNG perspective. What we are doing in terms of energy coming from the high voltage pipeline. So we think that it's quite easy at the end of the day. We are trying to provide energy to the vessels from the engines, auxiliary engines, and we want to take it from the high voltage pipeline. This is something related how to balance the supply and demand. Nowadays, it doesn't exist. It's a math in terms of how we can get it to provide, because this is a huge amount of energy that they requires. So this is, and after we have analyzed different options, the decision that has been taken is to install, to build up from the scratch, a grid, okay, that will take advantage of the high voltage pipeline quite close to the area. We are in advanced talks with Red Eléctrica Española in order to provide this energy and put it over there. To after that, show and supply the berthing, the vessels alongside the piers. This is as a first step. Okay, so we are constructing this grid. And on top of that, okay, we get it, and how we serve, how we supply this energy to the pier area. So we are on talks, we are thinking how to plan this huge project to provide this comprehensive network, to provide this energy to the piers. Which piers are the decided nowadays? Most of them focusing on the passenger business. It means cruise ships and ferries. And on top of that, container business and for sure car carrier business. This is a huge amount. This is a great effort of the Port of Barcelona. We will invest, the estimated cost is around 60 million of euro. That this is, for sure, it's something that we, let me underline, because it's a proof that the unwavering commitment of this port to provide a better air quality in the port. So this is quite important in such a way. And if you have a goal, but you don't have a plan, you have a dream just. So this is the reason why we start to hard working in terms of scheduling to provide this reality in 2017. So we are showing you the different wharves, the different piers, where are the main relevant activities that I mentioned before. Remember, passengers, car business, and container business, that for sure simultaneously, and depending how is evolving the business, it means some specific model freights in the maritime business could be ahead of time to other one. We will readapt how we will invest for a specific main docks. Sorry. This is what we are trying to establish or to plan for the next years, 2020. This is the huge project. In parallel, and looking forward, we are thinking about the renewable resources. We are not just focusing the grid. We are thinking about new projects in terms of renewable resources, mainly photovoltaic. It means that, remember that we are a piece of a landlord system. We are running the port, these huge premises, where for sure there are some concessionaires, and with huge premises where to put some panels, some solar panels, in order to get these renewable resources. For sure, we have to adapt the model that we are running with them, for sure, but the idea is get these renewable resources that for sure the funny thing or the good thing is that it has not footprint emission. This is quite important to underline, in order to provide these specific areas. For sure, you have the maximum capacity and the demand or the consumption that for sure is huge, that roughly speaking, it represents the majority of the total consumption nowadays in the Port of Barcelona. But on top of that, we are thinking as well for other kind of renewable resources like the windmills or the wind towers, okay, in order to get additional energy that for sure will help in the future. Okay, we have the grid where to manage this few resources in terms of highway pipeline energy. We have the renewable resources. We have to manage as smart as we can. So we put all together, let's in brackets, in this grid. We have to take into account that we are taking advantage from the different resources. It means, for instance, the panels or the windmills and so on. We have to storage this new energy. We have to take into account, we have planning to install batteries in terms of lithium-ion batteries that will help. And this grid, the key issue is that we'll take decisions from its own, depending on which is the relevant criteria that is involved with. imagine supply, demand, cost, weather conditions, different variables that we have to take into account in order to provide, remember, balance the supply and demand depending on the most efficient and cost orientation. What's the aim at the end of the day? We mentioned at the very beginning in the minutes of the presentation, it was quite clear. Minimizing the impact of the footprint emissions and the polluting emissions to the surrounding area, and for sure we are focused on, in comparison on 2017, to reduce at almost to zero in terms of greenhouse gases in the port area, and reduce the nitrogen oxides and particulate matters around 50% and 25%. This is a huge effort that we are dealing, not just as a port, with private companies and our port community as well. So, just before to finalize the first part of the presentation, we think, and we heard before with other colleagues from other port authorities, that we are strong believe that if we are not collaborating with other port authorities, we cannot achieve the huge challenge that we are facing on. In such a way, and as a proof of that, the Port of Barcelona added last year to this World Ports Climate Action Program, where, by the way, Port is leading this power to ship, we are the most advanced and most smartest ports all around. That, by the way, we are sharing these floors. So, and in such a way, we are putting on the table, let's say, as a trendsetters, how we can reduce, how we can decarbonize the port authority, the port business, in order to influence the maritime business. This is something quite important. We have a short video that is wrapping up that I told you before. It's 2 minutes, not more. That's bien, no? Well, this is the grid that I mentioned before, where we are building up the substation. The renewable resources coming from the different panels in the different premises of the port. Solar panels. Windmills as well. And for sure how we integrate every single resources in the smartest way from this station, okay, providing, depending on the supply and demand, grid, taking advantage from the different resources, how we, for instance, we storage this energy, and how we are supplying depending on every single specific demand. Some cases how we will provide the electric energy to the vessels in such a way. This is a clear example for cruise business.
Yeah. I think we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean,
for our next.
Exactly. Thank you very much. So the point is that let me just underline the strong commitment of the Port of Barcelona in order to minimize and to improve the quality air of our surrounding area. That for sure will help as well for the surrounding economy. Thank you very much indeed, and see you later.